leaned back in her command chair, boots propped irreverently on the pristine control console of the TSS Intrepid. The fact that they actually thought this would work. Her first officer, a towering Kralaxian named Vorthak, clicked his mandibles in what she had long ago learned was their species' equivalent of an exasperated sigh. "Captain, with all due respect, perhaps we should focus on the fact that someone just tried to assassinate you." "Oh, I am focusing on it," Alex replied, examining the smoldering hole in the bulkhead exactly 2.3 meters above where her head had been moments before. "I'm focusing really hard on just how spectacularly they failed. Did you know they sent their best shooter?" The bridge crew, a mix of humans and various alien species that made up the Terran Space Service's proudest traditions, tried very hard to maintain their professional composure. Most failed. Lieutenant Rodriguez at Tactical wasn't even trying, her shoulders shaking with barely suppressed laughter. "Their best shooter," Alex continued, "who apparently didn't account for the fact that humans have this weird thing called getting bored and fidgeting. I mean, who sits perfectly still for 4 hours during a routine patrol?" Vorthak's antennae twitched. "Most species consider movement during duty to be highly unprofessional, Captain." "Most species need to learn to live a little," Alex retorted, spinning her chair in a lazy circle. "Besides, if I hadn't gotten up to stretch right then, we wouldn't have this wonderful opportunity for diplomatic relations." The way she said diplomatic relations made several crew members wince. The last time Captain Marcus had engaged in diplomatic relations with an adversary, 3 space stations had needed extensive renovations, and the Galactic Council had to create 4 new interspecies laws specifically prohibiting the creative use of artificial gravity generators in conjunction with food replicators. "Captain," Vorthak ventured carefully, "the hegemony's assassination attempt is a clear act of war. Protocol dictates—" "Oh, absolutely," Alex interrupted, finally swinging her feet down and sitting up straight. Her eyes gleamed with the kind of mischief that had made her both famous and infamous throughout known space. "Protocol dictates a proportional response, and I intend to be very proportional." She tapped her console, bringing up a holographic display of the sector. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, where did our wannabe sniper's shot originate?" "Analysis confirms it came from the hegemony's new civilian station in the Proxima Beta system, Captain," Rodriguez reported, her grin matching her commanding officer's. "The one they claim is a cultural exchange center." "Fascinating," Alex drawled. "And completely coincidental that it has a direct line of sight to our patrol route, I'm sure. How long until we can reach it at standard speed?" 4 hours, 17 minutes, Captain." "Make it 3. I want to pay them a visit while they're still feeling proud of themselves." Alex's smile would have made a shark nervous. "And contact Admiral Zhang. Tell him I'm invoking Protocol 7B. The bridge went silent. Even Rodriguez stopped grinning. "Captain," Vorthak said slowly, "Protocol 7B is the one that lets a commanding officer respond to a direct assassination attempt using any means necessary to ensure the message is received clearly by all parties involved," Alex quoted cheerfully. "It's my favorite protocol, right up there with 13C, the one about creative use of emergency broadcast systems. The last time you invoked 7B, the Duraxian Empire learned a valuable lesson about trying to poison human diplomats, didn't they?" Alex stood, stretching languidly. "Besides, this time I promise not to use any livestock. Much." The next few hours aboard the Intrepid were filled with the kind of controlled chaos that seemed to follow Captain Marcus wherever she went. Crew members hurried through corridors with barely contained excitement, carrying out preparations that, on paper, looked perfectly reasonable and regulation compliant. The reality, as anyone who had served under Aleksandra Marcus knew, would be anything but. As they approached the hegemony station, Alex sat in her command chair, looking for all the world like she was about to attend a pleasant afternoon tea rather than respond to an assassination attempt. "Open a channel to the station," she ordered. "Let's be polite about this." The station's commander, a hegemony official named Dextra, appeared on screen. His bony ridge crests were held high in a show of superiority that Alex found adorably misplaced. "Captain Marcus," he said smoothly. "What an unexpected pleasure. We weren't expecting a Terran vessel in this sector for another—" He made a show of checking his displays. 4 hours? "Oh, we decided to speed things up a bit," Alex replied cheerfully. "Funny thing happened during our patrol. Someone tried to shoot me. Can you believe it? Right through my nice, clean bulkhead, too. Maintenance is quite upset about it." Dextra's ridge crests twitched almost imperceptibly. "How unfortunate. I trust you're investigating this serious matter?" "Oh, we already finished the investigation. That's why I'm here." Alex's smile never wavered. You see, we tracked the shot right back to your lovely station. I'm sure it's just a terrible misunderstanding. Probably just one of your cultural exchange officers getting a bit too excited about sharing their species' traditional assassination techniques, right? The hegemony commander's scales took on a slightly paler hue. Captain, I assure you, no need for assurances, Alex interrupted. I'm here to exchange some culture right back, starting with a fascinating human tradition called proportional response, and maybe a little lesson in basic physics, specifically about how gravity works, or doesn't work, depending on how creative you're feeling. She gestured to Rodriguez. Lieutenant, please begin our cultural exchange program. What happened next would be talked about in bars and academies across the galaxy for years to come. The official report would state, in perfectly professional language, that Captain Aleksandra Marcus demonstrated the consequences of attempting to assassinate a human commander through a series of carefully calculated maneuvers that resulted in no loss of life but significant property damage and, quote, a thorough re-education in cross-species relations. The unofficial reports, usually shared over strong drinks, would describe how she used the Intrepid's tractor beams to reorganize the station's external structure into what she claimed was abstract art, representing humanity's disappointment in their life choices. How she managed to hack their gravity systems to create what she called a physics appreciation course that left the entire station's complement floating in a synchronized dance of their own unwilling creation. And how, most memorably, she used their own defense systems to paint a detailed animation of their failed assassination attempt on the station's hull, complete with commentary and a laugh track. 6 hours later, as the Intrepid prepared to depart, leaving behind a thoroughly humiliated but very much alive station crew, and a structure that now looked like it had been redesigned by an architect with a sense of humor and a grudge, Alex sent one final message. Dear Hegemony, she broadcast on all frequencies. Next time you try to assassinate someone, remember 2 things. 1. Humans fidget. A lot. We can't help it. We've got to move around every few minutes or we go crazy. Makes us terrible targets, really. And 2? She paused for effect. We tend to take things personally, but we also believe in teaching moments. I do hope today was educational. Captain Marcus out. As they pulled away from the station, Vorthak finally spoke up. Captain, was it really necessary to reprogram their food replicators to only produce Earth coffee for the next week? Of course it was, Alex replied, already propping her feet back up on her console. They clearly need something to keep them awake and alert. Wouldn't want them to miss any more shots due to drowsiness, would we? The Admiral will require a full report, he reminded her. Already done. I even used proper grammar and everything, she grinned. Though I may have taken some creative liberties with the section headings. Did you know you can write a completely professional report while making every subsection title a coffee pun? As the Intrepid jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving behind a station full of jittery, gravity-challenged, and thoroughly educated hegemony officials, Alex couldn't help but add one final thought. You know what the best part is, Vorthak? They're going to have to explain to their superiors how they not only failed to assassinate one human captain, but managed to turn their entire station into a floating art installation that broadcasts a cartoon of their failure every hour on the hour. She chuckled. And they'll have to do it while absolutely wired on espresso. The first officer's mandibles clicked in what might have been a suppressed laugh. You know they're going to seek revenge. Oh, I hope so, Alex replied, her eyes twinkling with mischief. I've got so many more human traditions to share. Wait until they learn about practical jokes. The Intrepid continued on its patrol route, leaving behind a sector of space that would never quite be the same, and a legend that would grow with each retelling. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a hegemony assassination committee was about to learn a valuable lesson about target selection. Never pick a human who looks bored. They're probably just thinking up new ways to ruin your day. You did what? Admiral Zhang's holographic projection managed to convey both exasperation and amusement, a skill he'd perfected over years of dealing with Captain Marcus. I believe the technical term is enhanced cultural exchange, Alex replied, maintaining an impressively straight face. The hegemony station is still completely functional, just more artistic now, and caffeinated. The Admiral pinched the bridge of his nose. Aleksandra, turning their gravity control into what you called, and I'm quoting from your report here, an interpretive dance generator is not standard diplomatic procedure. With all due respect, sir, neither is trying to shoot me through my own bridge. She leaned forward in her chair. Besides, I followed Protocol 7B to the letter. No permanent damage, no casualties, and, she grinned, maximum educational impact. The hegemony has filed 17 formal complaints in the last 6 hours. Only 17? They're slipping. Alex's expression turned more serious. Sir, you and I both know what this was really about. The hegemony's been pushing boundaries ever since we refused their protective alliance proposal last month. They needed to see what would happen if they crossed the line. And you showed them. Zhang sighed. With coffee and choreography. Better than showing them with weapons, Alex pointed out. The whole sector's talking about how a human captain responded to an assassination attempt by turning it into performance art. Makes us look creative instead of aggressive. Diplomatic, even. Diplomatic is not the word I would use for reprogramming their external lighting to spell out better luck next time in 7 different languages. 8 languages, Alex corrected. I added classical Vrataxian. It's a dying language. I thought they'd appreciate the cultural preservation aspect. Before the Admiral could respond, Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice cut in over the comm. Captain, we're picking up multiple ships dropping out of FTL. Hegemony signatures. Alex's eyes lit up. How many? 6 cruisers, standard battle formation. They're hailing us. Well, Alex drawled. Looks like someone didn't appreciate our art installation. She turned back to the Admiral's hologram. Permission to continue our cultural exchange program, sir? Zhang looked like he was fighting a smile. Try not to start an interstellar war, Captain. Wouldn't dream of it, sir. Just some friendly performance reviews. The transmission ended, and Alex straightened in her chair. All right, people. Looks like the hegemony wants an encore. Let's not disappoint them. Battle stations, but keep weapons powered down. I have a different idea. Vorthex's antennae twitched nervously. Captain, they appear to have brought significantly more firepower this time. Of course they did, Alex replied cheerfully. They're compensating for something. Probably their terrible aim. Open a channel, Lieutenant. The main screen flickered to life, showing a hegemony war commander whose ridge crests were practically vibrating with rage. Captain Marcus, he snarled, your actions against our cultural exchange station were delightful, weren't they? Alex interrupted. I particularly enjoyed the part where we synced your gravity fluctuations to classical human music. Tell me, how many of your crew have developed a taste for ballet? The war commander's scales darkened. You will surrender your vessel immediately, or you'll miss again? Alex examined her nails casually. You know, most species would take the hint after the first failure. But I admire your persistence, misguided as it is. She gestured to Rodriguez. Lieutenant, please share with our friends the data packet we prepared earlier. Data packet? The war commander's confusion was visible. What? Every screen on the hegemony ship suddenly lit up with detailed schematics. Their own schematics, complete with helpful annotations in Alex's distinctly irreverent style. You see those red circles? Alex continued pleasantly. Those mark every single structural weakness in your ship's designs. The blue ones? Those are all the spots where your shield harmonics don't quite overlap properly. And the green ones, my personal favorite, those show exactly where your power distribution networks are most vulnerable to. Say, a carefully calibrated tractor beam pulse. The war commander's expression shifted from rage to something approaching concern. How did you... Oh, while you were all distracted by our little art project at the station, we took the liberty of doing some deep scans. Very deep scans. Did you know your encryption was synced to the same frequency as your main power grid? Terribly inefficient design, really. We should talk about that sometime. She leaned forward, her smile turning predatory. But here's the interesting part. I've just transmitted these schematics to every ship in your battle group, including all the little notes about how the other captain's ships are slightly better or worse in certain areas. I do hope that doesn't cause any professional jealousy. On cue, several of the hegemony ships' formations wavered slightly, as their captains presumably began reviewing the data. You're bluffing, the war commander declared, but his ridge crests had deflated noticeably. Am I? Ask your engineering chief about the hairline stress fracture in your starboard plasma conduit, the one that's about to hit its resonance frequency. Right. About now. A distant alarm began blaring on the hegemony flagship. Don't worry, it's not critical, Alex assured him. Yet, but it will be if you maintain battle stations for another... 17 minutes. I'd power down those weapons if I were you. Wouldn't want to strain that conduit any further. The war commander's scales had gone from dark to distinctly pale. This is impossible. Our systems are... Fascinating, Alex cut in. Really, they are. Especially that experimental cloaking device you've got hidden in Cargo Bay 3, the one that's not supposed to exist? I particularly enjoyed reading the maintenance logs. You might want to check the phase converter, by the way. It's about 3 degrees out of alignment. She watched with satisfaction as chaos erupted on the Hegemony Bridge, officers rushing to verify her claims. Now, Alex continued, we could do this the hard way, where I demonstrate exactly how many of these weaknesses I can exploit simultaneously. Or we could have a civilized discussion about proper diplomatic protocols and why assassination attempts are generally considered poor manners in human space. The war commander looked like he was choking on his own rage. You cannot— Oh, but I can, and I will, unless— She paused dramatically. You'd prefer to withdraw, review your tactical and diplomatic approaches, and perhaps consider a formal apology? I'll even throw in some engineering consultations. Your power grid really could use some work. The silence that followed was broken only by the continuing alarms from the Hegemony ships and the poorly suppressed snickering from the Intrepid's bridge crew. You have 1 hour to decide, Alex said cheerfully. In the meantime, I took the liberty of reprogramming your recreational facilities. Your crews might enjoy something humans call karaoke. I find it really helps ease diplomatic tensions. The war commander's response was cut off by the sudden burst of Don't Stop Believin', playing through every speaker on every Hegemony vessel. As the enemy ships scrambled to deal with their newly musical crisis, Vorthak turned to his captain. Was the karaoke really necessary? Absolutely, Alex replied, settling back in her chair. Nothing says we could destroy you but choose not to, quite like forcing your enemies to listen to Journey. Besides, she added with a wink, I've got the whole human musical catalog queued up. Next is Never Gonna Give You Up. Some traditions are too important not to share. And if they choose to attack anyway? Alex's smile turned sharp. Then they'll learn why humans have so many songs about going down fighting. But somehow, I don't think it'll come to that. They seem a bit preoccupied at the moment. Sure enough, the Hegemony ships were already beginning to power down their weapons, their formation breaking, as each captain presumably dealt with their own musical invasion and the revelation of their ship's vulnerabilities. You know, Alex mused, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful diplomatic relationship. Nothing brings people together quite like shared embarrassment and classic Earth music. Vorthak's mandibles clicked in what might have been resignation. I assume this will all be in your report to Admiral Zhang? Oh yes, Alex confirmed. Under the section titled, Harmonious Resolution of Hostilities. I think he'll appreciate the pun. As the Intrepid's crew settled in to watch the Hegemony fleet's impromptu concert, Alex made a mental note to update the ship's cultural database. After all, if the Hegemony was going to keep trying to assassinate her, she might as well introduce them to the entire history of human musical theater. Starting with the Pirates of Penzance, it seemed thematically appropriate. Precisely 47 minutes into their impromptu musical diplomacy session, the Hegemony war commander requested to reopen communications. His ridge crests were twitching in what appeared to be a nervous tick, perfectly in time with the chorus of Sweet Caroline playing across his bridge. Captain Marcus, he managed through clenched teeth, we are prepared to discuss terms. Wonderful, Alex beamed at him. I was hoping you'd say that before we got to the disco era. Though I must say your crew's harmonizing has improved considerably in the last hour. Behind the war commander, several bridge officers were indeed unconsciously swaying to the music, a fact that seemed to pain him physically to acknowledge. Your terms, he growled. Oh, nothing too strenuous, Alex replied, spinning lazily in her chair. First, a formal acknowledgement that assassination attempts are not an acceptable form of diplomatic discourse. Second, you'll need to submit to a full inspection of that illegal cloaking device. Can't have that technology floating around unsupervised, you understand. The war commander's scales rippled with suppressed rage. And, Alex's voice took on a theatrical thoughtfulness. I think a joint cultural exchange program. A real one this time, not the secretly a sniper nest variety. Your crews seem to have developed quite an appreciation for human music already. You can't be serious. I'm always serious about cultural enrichment, Alex declared. Besides, think how much more efficient your ships could be if you applied some human engineering principles, like not routing your main power through your communication systems. That's just asking for trouble. A new alarm began blaring on the Hegemony flagship, as if to emphasize her point. Oh dear, Alex said, not sounding concerned at all. That would be your secondary plasma manifold entering its own resonance frequency. You might want to power down your shields before they overload your... The war commander's shields flickered and died, along with half his bridge lights. Primary distribution grid, Alex finished. Don't worry, we can get that fixed up during the cultural exchange. I know some excellent engineers who'd love to get their hands on your systems. Professionally speaking, of course. Vorthak leaned closer to his captain. Are you actually suggesting a legitimate cooperation program? Why not? Alex whispered back. They clearly need the help, and it's better than them skulking around trying to shoot people. Besides, she added with a wink, imagine how much fun their first karaoke night will be when they're doing it voluntarily. The war commander was conferring frantically with his officers, most of whom were simultaneously trying to restore power and resist the urge to sing along to Sweet Home Alabama, which had just begun playing. Very well, he finally ground out. We accept your terms, under protest. Noted, Alex replied cheerfully, though I should mention that the protest will be recorded in interpretive dance, as per the new cultural exchange protocols we just established. The look of horror on the war commander's face suggested he couldn't tell if she was joking. She wasn't entirely sure herself. We'll begin with the inspections tomorrow, Alex continued. For now, I suggest you return to your bases and prepare your crews for their first lesson in human engineering principles. And maybe brush up on your singing. There will be a test. As the hegemony ships limped away, their engines humming slightly off-key to match the music still playing through their systems, Vorthak turned to his captain. Was this your plan all along? To force them into actual diplomatic relations through sheer humanness? Vorthak, my friend, Alex replied, propping her feet up on her console once again. The best plans are the ones where your enemies don't realize they're being diplomatically outmaneuvered until they're already halfway through their first group sing-along. And the engineering inspections? Oh, those are absolutely necessary, but also hilarious. Have you ever seen a hegemony engineer try to explain why they designed something poorly? They get this wonderful twitch in their secondary eye stalks. The first officer's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. The Admiral will want to know how you managed to hack their systems so thoroughly. Simple, Alex said, pulling up a display. While everyone was distracted by the station light show, I had our engineers analyze their broadcast patterns. Turns out, the hegemony's entire command structure runs on the principle of why use two separate systems when you can unnecessarily complicate one. Everything, communications, weapons, life support, all runs through the same basic protocols. She grinned. So when we inserted that first karaoke program into their recreational systems, it had access to everything. Vorthak finished, his antennae twitching in realization. Exactly. They were so busy trying to maintain their image of superiority that they never considered someone might exploit their own complexity against them. Alex stretched contentedly. A very human lesson, really. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. And the solution to attempted assassination was karaoke? And engineering critiques, Alex corrected. Never underestimate the power of professional embarrassment as a diplomatic tool. She paused thoughtfully. Though I suppose we should warn the cultural exchange coordinators to stock up on throat lozenges. I have a feeling the hegemony crews are going to need them. As the Intrepid prepared to resume its patrol route, Alex made one final entry in her captain's log. Day 234. Diplomatic relations with the hegemony have been upgraded from attempted assassination to reluctant karaoke partners. Consider this a significant improvement. Also, note for future reference. Their ship's power systems are tragically vulnerable to the baseline of "Another One Bites the Dust." Recommend full engineering overhaul during cultural exchange program. End log. She then added a personal note. Remember to send Admiral Zhang the video of the hegemony bridge crew's spontaneous performance of YMCA, for diplomatic records, of course. As the ship jumped to FTL, the last thing anyone heard over the comm was a hegemony ensign asking their commander if they were really expected to learn all of Bohemian Rhapsody. The commander's response was lost in the jump, but Alex had a feeling the next few months were going to be very interesting indeed. After all, she hadn't even introduced them to musical theater yet. The first official Terran hegemony cultural exchange and engineering review commenced exactly one standard week after what was now being called the karaoke incident. Captain Aleksandra Marcus stood in the main auditorium of Starbase 47, surveying her handiwork with undisguised satisfaction. I must admit, Admiral Zhang said, stepping up beside her. When you submitted your proposal for aggressive diplomatic integration through collaborative performance arts and engineering critiques, I thought you had finally lost your mind. And now? Alex gestured to the scene before them. The massive auditorium was filled with an improbable mix of hegemony engineers and human technical specialists, all clustered around holographic displays of various ship systems. The surprising part wasn't the technical discussions, it was the background noise of hegemony officers humming Earth songs while they worked. Now I'm considering making it standard diplomatic protocol, Zhang replied dryly, though perhaps with less emphasis on 20th century power ballads. The power ballads are essential to the process, sir. You can't properly critique a power distribution system without power of love playing in the background. It's basic psychology. A commotion near the main stage drew their attention. A young hegemony engineer was engaged in what appeared to be a passionate debate with a human counterpart about the proper way to modulate shield harmonics. Both were unconsciously using hand gestures that looked suspiciously like choreography from Stayin' Alive. You've created monsters, Zhang observed. I prefer to think of it as unlocking their potential, Alex corrected. Did you know their entire engineering philosophy was based on making systems as complicated as possible to prevent understanding by potential enemies? And now? Now they're learning the human principle of work smarter, not harder. Though I think they're still struggling with our tendency to turn everything into a competition. She nodded toward another group where a hegemony technical team was attempting to optimize their power grid efficiency, while simultaneously trying to outperform their human counterparts in a rendition of Eye of the Tiger. The Admiral pinched the bridge of his nose. The Galactic Council has requested a full report on your methods. Already submitted it, complete with video attachments and a suggested playlist for future diplomatic missions. Alex's eyes twinkled. I called it, How to Turn Attempted Assassination into Interspecies Karaoke, a case study in human diplomatic innovation. Before Zhang could respond, the war commander from the previous confrontation approached them. His ridge crests were significantly less rigid than before, though he still maintained an air of formal dignity. Or tried to, despite the fact that he was clearly tapping his foot to the rhythm of Don't Stop Believin' playing in the background. Captain Marcus, he acknowledged with what might have been grudging respect. Our preliminary engineering reviews have revealed concerning inefficiencies in our designs. Really? Alex affected an expression of innocent surprise. Do tell. Our experts estimate that implementing even half of the suggested human modifications would improve our overall system efficiency by 43%. He paused, ridge crests twitching, and reduce our maintenance requirements by 60%. Fascinating, Alex replied. And how much of that efficiency gain comes from simply not routing everything through the same overcomplicated system? The war commander's scales darkened slightly, and what she had learned was their equivalent of a blush. Approximately 78%. Well, there's your problem, Alex said cheerfully. You can't expect peak performance if your life support is competing with your entertainment system for power. Speaking of which, how are your crews enjoying the new recreational programs? The war commander's expression suggested he was suffering from acute diplomatic whiplash. They have submitted 723 requests for access to additional human musical archives, and he seemed to physically struggle with the next words. There is now a waiting list for karaoke night. Admiral Zhang made a sound that might have been a hastily disguised laugh. Wonderful! Alex clapped her hands together. We'll start them on Broadway Classics next week. I think your species will particularly appreciate Phantom of the Opera. All those dramatic high notes really showcase your natural vocal range. Captain, the war commander said with what appeared to be genuine curiosity. I must ask, was this truly your plan from the beginning? To counter our... He paused diplomatically. Aggressive diplomatic overture with this cultural invasion? Counter? Alex raised an eyebrow. My dear war commander, this isn't to counter anything. This is simply humans being human. You tried to handle us the way you'd handle any other species, with rigid protocols and complicated plans. But humans? She gestured to the organized chaos around them. We thrive on adaptation, improvisation, and turning potentially hostile situations into impromptu dance parties. And the engineering critiques? Oh, those were just because your system's designs physically hurt my soul. I mean, who routes weapon targeting through the same processor as crew quarters temperature control? That's just asking for someone to freeze your gunners every time they try to shoot. The The war commander's secondary eyes narrowed. You seem very familiar with our systems for someone who only recently gained access. Well, Alex drawled. Maybe next time don't make your encryption key the same frequency as your shield harmonics. It's like leaving your house key under the welcome mat. A very complicated, unnecessarily convoluted welcome mat. Before the war commander could respond, a cheer erupted from the main stage. A mixed group of human and hegemony engineers had apparently just broken some kind of efficiency record, and were celebrating with what appeared to be a spontaneous performance of We Are the Champions. You should join them, Alex suggested to the war commander. I hear you have an excellent base range. The look he gave her could have frozen plasma, but there was something almost like amusement in his secondary eyes. Perhaps, after the engineering review is complete. As he walked away, Admiral Zhang turned to Alex. You realize you've fundamentally altered the diplomatic landscape of the entire sector. For the better, I'd say. It's hard to maintain aggressive